Hey, what's up everybody? And today we're going to be looking at a tier list that's got a lot of people talking. Mago, the 2D god, just released his post-Terry DLC tier list, and there's some pretty interesting placements. So what I'm going to do for you guys today, I'm going to explain Mago's reasoning for this tier list. Now, if you don't know, I speak Japanese fluently, and I basically summarized Mago's thoughts on this tier list. I'm going to let you know exactly why he places these characters here. A couple of things I want to get out of the way before we even start. First of all, this is Mago's tier list, not mine. I'm just translating it, so if you really disagree, don't get mad at me, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just translating for you. The second thing is there are some characters that Mago doesn't touch on or really doesn't explain his reasoning for that much in this tier list. So if I skip anybody or don't mention the reason why a character is in that rank, it's because Mago didn't really explain it that much. And just the other day, Tokido actually had a live stream where he took a look at this list and he kind of gave his thoughts really quickly. So at the end of this video, I'll translate and tell you what Tokido thought about Mago's tier list as well. At the beginning, there are two things that he kind of wanted to let everyone know before he even started the tier list. First of all, he says that this is his tier list from his perspective as a high-ranked player in Japan. So you have to keep in mind this is just his opinion, and it's basically his opinion from the perspective of a longtime jury player and now over the past 2 weeks as a Terry player. So that does play into how he decided to build this chart. And the second thing he wanted everyone to know is that tier lists are going to change based on the rank that you're in. So what he's trying to say is that a diamond player or a low MR master player is going to have a bit of a different opinion compared to somebody who's ranked top 100 or top 200 in the legend ranks. It's very much from his own personal perspective and not meant to be the be-all end-all season 2 post-Terry patch tier list. So first let's start off with the E tier, because that's the first tier that Mago kind of talks about in his video. So he thinks Terry is the weakest character in the game for sure, and then he thinks Marisa is slightly stronger than Terry. Now unfortunately, he didn't really say why he thinks Terry is the weakest character. I'm going to guess that he thinks Terry's the weakest character because he's only been out for 2 weeks and he hasn't really practiced him, and also the fact that Terry kind of does seem to struggle against the characters that Mago put into the S tier. Ed, Cammy, Bison. I think these 3 characters are really tricky for Terry to fight right now. Again, it's still early. It's only been about 2 weeks since the character dropped, so we don't know for sure yet, but just right now it seems like Terry does have a hard time against these 3. So I think that's why he put him in E, but in my opinion, I think it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I don't think a character with a drive rush, cancelable crouching medium kick, and a meterless reversal, like a DP, can really be the worst character in the game. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Let me know what you guys think, but that's just my opinion. But again, that's just my personal opinion. Did, however, explain his placement for Marisa. So he thinks Marisa really struggles at high level right now, and he thinks Marisa doesn't really have any favorable matchups. But he does say he thinks this character does seem really strong until you've gotten past like 1700 MR. And he says that before 1700 MR, players, their defense isn't super strong. They don't know all of her set play. They don't know how to defend against all of her typical patterns and the way she wants to attack. So she seems really strong to kind of like mid-level or like upper mid-level players. But once you reach that really high level point, like above 2000 MR, she becomes really weak because everyone knows how to kind of defend against her, and she doesn't exactly have the tools to kind of fight like these top tier characters do. So that's his reasoning for putting her at the bottom. All right, so we got those 2 out of the way. Let's look at D. So with Jamie, he says that Jamie can win and he has the tools to beat some characters, but level 0 Jamie is a really weak character. And I think that's something we can all agree on. Level like no drink Jamie, he's struggling out there. He doesn't quite have the tools as everybody else. So Mago says it's hard for him until he gets that first drink. He can start to get his game plan going once he gets that first drink in, but that time from the beginning of the round until he gets that first drink is really tough for him, and that's what makes him top of D tier. Then for Kimberly, he says Kimberly doesn't really have any winning matchups in his opinion at this point in the game. Basic playstyle is just kind of go crazy, try to do something, hope it hits, and if it does, you can win, and if it doesn't, that's it, you're done. So that's all he went into detail with Kimberly. And then Honda, unfortunately, he didn't touch on Honda, so I don't know why he put Honda exactly at the bottom of D. All right, moving on to the C tier. Let's talk about C, and he's got quite a few characters here. He's got 5 characters. He has Manon at the top, then Dalsum, Ryu, Luke, and Lily. So in Mago's opinion, Manon is better than people give her credit for. He doesn't think she's a great character, but he doesn't think she's as bad as people say. This is a character that frequently gets placed at the bottom of tier lists, but for Mago, he thinks she's top of C because in his opinion, she can fight better than people give her credit for. However, he says she can't go into the B tier because JP got buffed this patch with Terry. They reverted some of the nerfs that were done in the last patch, and JP has gotten quite a bit stronger this time now in post-Terry DLC Season 2, And JP is a really hard matchup for Manon, and he thinks that reason alone will stop Manon from ever going above the B tier, and also the fact that she kind of struggles against the other characters in SNA. The next is Dalsum, which is also interesting because Dalsum's a super rare character. People don't rate this character very highly at all. We don't really see him winning any top 8s or anything at tournaments. And he's just rare. I think most people, especially outside of top level players, I don't think people really know how to fight this character just because it's so rare to fight him online. Like I fight a Dalsum like maybe 2 or 3 times a month, if that. So Mago's reasoning behind Dalsum is that he actually thinks that Dalsum does well against some of the really high tier characters in the game. I'm just pulling up my notes here. He says he does well against Zangief, Ed, Akuma, Guile, Ken, and JP. So those are a lot of top tier characters all in the SNA, and he says Dalsum fights really well against them. So if you're looking at Dalsum just from a footsies or neutral game kind of point of view, then he does really well. But Dalsum's big downfall is his lack of damage output. Like he doesn't really have high damage combos. He's not really a combo character. He plays mostly a runaway, like hit and run kind of game. And that doesn't really sit too well in the meta right now. So that's kind of what puts him in C. Then next, Ryu and Luke. He talks about those 2 characters. In Mago's opinion, Ryu and Luke are about the same in power level. He spent some time on his stream kind of switching these 2 back and forth. But he says he thinks they're about the same and the power level doesn't really change too much. So our boy Luke, top of everybody's tier list at the beginning of season 1 and midway through, he's fallen pretty hard according to Mago, and I think that's kind of true because we don't really see this character doing tons of damage at top level aside from just like 1 or 2 players like Noah the Prodigy, and I don't know if Chris Wong still plays this character, but Chris Wong's kind of fallen off a little bit since season 2 hit, so definitely think the nerfs are affecting this character. And then Lily's at the bottom of C. The only thing he said about Lily is that he thinks she's gotten weak. I don't know what he means by that because I think she's gotten some buffs. Maybe he means in terms of her strength in regards to the meta, but he didn't explain why he thinks she's gotten weaker. So sorry guys, I can't expand past that. All right, we got through E, D, and C, so now let's look at the B rank. So he puts Guile right at the top of B rank, and me as a Guile player, this is something I can agree with. I don't really think Guile is an A or S tier character. I think he's really good, and Mago explains his reasoning for B, which I totally agree with. Mago says that Guile is really strong when he's fighting characters that he's good against. Like his winning matchups are really easy for Guile. Guile doesn't have to take too much risk. He just does his boom, drive rush, anti-air, plays a solid neutral game, and life is pretty easy for this character. However, he says Guile really struggles with some of the top tiers. Matchups that he listed as particularly hard for him are Zangief, JP, Dalsum, Ken, Cammy, DJ, and most likely Bison and Ed as well, but he wasn't 100% sure if that's a disadvantage matchup or not. Unfortunately, Mago didn't say anything about Chun-Li. He did say that he thinks DJ is pretty strong this version. He didn't say like amazing or anything like that, but he just said pretty strong. Then for Juri, he thinks Juri is like solid middle of the pack kind of character, and unfortunately again he didn't really explain why, but I think most of us know at this point. I think just the fact that she has really stubby light attacks, like really stubby crouching jabs, standing jabs, kind of doesn't let her play the same meta game as what the characters up here are doing. So again, that's my words, not Mago's, but that seems to be the general consensus on this character. And then finally, at the bottom of B tier, we have Aki and Blanca. He didn't really say anything about Aki, but he did talk about Blanca. He thinks Blanca's kind of like a one-chance Hail Mary kind of character. He says his whole game plan is basically around SA2 and the Blanca doll setups, and if those don't really work out for him in the match, or if the opponent blocks your mix-ups, then it's really hard for Blanca to kind of make a comeback and to win the match. So that's why he puts Blanca at the bottom of B. I think he sees Blanca as a bit of an unstable character. All right, next, everyone's favorites, A and S tier. So we have Rashid at the top of A, which sadly Mago didn't say anything about, and then Zangief right below that. The only thing he said about Zangief is that he thinks Zangief is slightly better than Akuma in this current patch. He didn't say why, but he said he thinks he's slightly better than Akuma. Then below that we have Ken and JP, and then he says this time, after this patch, he thinks JP has gotten quite a bit stronger. Not as strong as he was originally in Season 1. He doesn't think the changes in this patch will really push him into the S tier, but he's definitely back. He thinks he's a very strong character this time around. Then looking at the S tier, he thinks these characters are just super strong. He wasn't sure who the best character is. He says he thinks Ed is probably number 1, but he kind of struggled with the Cammy and M Bison placement. And his reasoning for the top 3 in this S ranking was basically that as a ranked match player playing ranked matches online in Japan, he's seen Bison players, Cammy players, and Ed players, their MR has shot up. Meanwhile, a lot of the other characters, their MRs have kind of like stayed stable, or they've gone up a little bit, they've gone down a little bit. But to him, these three, based on MR rankings, have just shot up so high that he says there's no way he can't put these in S, just based off what he's seen both online and then also in tournaments and tournament results. So yeah, he definitely thinks these are the three best characters in the game right now. So next, let's look at what Tokido said about Mago's tier list. So let's pull up Tokido really quick. All right, so here's Tokido's video looking at Mago's tier list. And he says, for the most part, he agrees with this tier list. He's surprised that he put Terry all the way at the bottom of E. He thought that was a little bit unexpected because it's only been 2 weeks and not everybody really knows the matchup yet, and some people are still losing to him due to like lack of counterplay strategy. It's only been 2 weeks, so he says even he himself has lost to Terry a bit. However, having said that, he does think Terry is pretty weak in this version. So far it seems like top players in Japan aren't really rating Terry very highly. We might see this guy shoot up through the charts. I remember when Ed came out in season 1, the Japanese tier list, I think a lot of people were putting him in like C and D tier, but our boy either got the glow up or they were totally wrong, and he's doing really well right now in S. I don't think anybody would disagree that Ed is a super strong character right now. You might not think he's number 1, but I think everybody who plays this game at least somewhat seriously, we can all agree that Ed's a good character. So sometimes, you know, tier lists and general consensus of people in Japan or any country for that matter can be totally off. So maybe all the top Japanese players are wrong about Terry, or maybe they're right. I think it's just going to be a matter of time before we actually find out what happens. Tokido's video about Mago's tier list is actually really short, and he doesn't go into like incredible detail about anything. He just touches on 2 things really, other than Terry's low placement. The first thing he says is he's really happy that Terry's in the game. He thinks it's amazing that an SNK character has gotten into a numbered Street Fighter title for the first time. If you guys don't remember, Tokido, he started playing KOF. That was his first fighting game that he took seriously, and he was a beast in KOF 13, so he definitely loves SNK and KOF characters, so I totally understand why he's happy to see an SNK character in Street Fighter 6. And then the second thing he talked about was, again, just kind of reiterating the fact that this tier list is definitely something that's made from Mago's point of view, both as a top-rated Japanese player and somebody who's really been working hard and trying to get results in the current Street Fighter League here in Japan. And Mago switched from Jury to Terry. Having said that, Tokido doesn't think Terry's a great character, and he thinks that Terry is kind of difficult to use in the current meta of the game, in Tokido's opinion. So yeah, guys, what do you think of Mago's tier list? Do you think this tier list cooks, or is it cooked? Which one? Let me know in the comments, because I think it's kind of fun to have these discussions. Also, about these kind of translation videos, this isn't what I usually do on my channel. I've put out 1 or 2 other videos in the past where I kind of translate what Japanese pros are saying. Like I said at the beginning, I do speak Japanese fluently, but I have this thing where I don't want to become like a content vulture kind of YouTuber. I really don't want to do that, so I've been shying away from doing any like additional translation videos. But let me know in the comments if you guys like these kind of videos and you want to see more from me, and I'll try to find a way to do it in a respectful manner. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, because it does support me as a content creator. And thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, take care.